Morning, how are you? Okay. you go. Hello, hello. Got my radio voice on. PhD Radio 97.3. Sounds like I'm going to get interrupted, so I'll wait before I start. Yes, darling. Yes, darling. Well, I am starting, but yes, darling.
Do you know the perimeter of my bedroom?
Yep. Yep. No worries. Hey? Okay, let's see. Let's right. Hello. Here we are. Call of the Void, episode 10. We've got date out week today, 28th of 4th. Welcome to music. Sorry, I gotta get rid of it. Welcome to Call of the Void. Call of the Void is a live vlogcast, podcast, radio talkback thingy that I do, all about theatre, live performance and the internet and the web and how those things are integrating in a modern 21st century. I am Michael Allen. I am a theatre maker, actor, director, writer. I am doing a PhD at the University of Adelaide, developing the new genre of web theatre, which is very specific. Let's get rid of all these things. Very specific new genre of theatre integrating social media, acting, TV, film, live performance, online performances, all that sort of stuff. So every 2 weeks I jump online and I have a bit of a conversation with anyone out there who happens to be watching, who happens to be available, and who happens to be interested in live theatre and web integration and digital storytelling. It's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool, spending a lot of time doing it, so I better make sure it is. What you'll see me doing is that often I'm jumping back and forth. Here, have a look at some pictures behind me. Isn't that very boring? Have a look at some pictures behind me. This first picture, there you go. That looks a little bit more domestic. Now it looks like you're in my kitchen and we're having a coffee. Lovely. So this week, what are we talking about? This week we should mostly be talking about the way internet and web integration works with a modern day festival. What do I mean by that? What I mean is guy for the moment. Oh, hello Alicia, how are you? What you'll see me doing quite often here is I'm DJing a lot. Oh yeah, okay, got that on. Is I'm DJing a lot because I am live streaming and I'm talking to you and vlogging. Many like different stuff, social media, live performances, then that's where I can help you. So I'm doing all of this at the moment, from really domestic stuff. I have a little microphone, I have a monitor, I'm streaming off my camera and off of my computer. Here, have a look at my camera shot. Have a look at my camera shot. There we go. So that's me up in the corner. That's on that camera. So I've got two cameras going. I'm operating through my computer. I've got sound. I'm going to bring up in a second some website stuff that we're going to have a bit of a squizzy with today's conversation. Subsequently, part of my research was, can you make this stuff with domestic personal use technology? Can you, do you have to have all the whiz-bang equipment and all of that sort of stuff? And all that sort of stuff. High-end cameras and massive editing and all this sorts of stuff. Look, how long is a piece of string, really? Obviously, high-end cameras, high-end equipment of any kind is always going to make the quality of what you're making go up, but I'm managing to make things work. I've got to keep track of which camera I'm on. With the stuff that I've got. For example, my CPU is maxing out at the moment. My computer is maxing out at the moment because I'm asking it to do so many things. So I'm quickly trying to shut other things down so it can operate okay. So yes, you can make it work with your own domestic stuff, but you've got to learn to manage it. The point of what I'm trying to do is discover ways that you can tell stories with more than just the camera and the sound. It's how do you tell stories using social media platforms? How do you tell stories integrating that interaction that happens on social media? Social media being very, and Web 2 generally being very interface orientated. Basically you have to input something into the system to make it work. Which means that it is an interactive experience, which is different from what a traditional theatre audience experiences when they sit quietly in the bleachers of theatre. Lots of stuff to talk about there. We can get into that later. You can ask me questions about that. I'm currently about between 3 and 6 months away from submitting my thesis at the moment. Subsequently, my head, which camera are you on at the moment? Subsequently, my head is full of stuff, and trying to get all that stuff out in a simple, digestible way that adds new knowledge to the world is a point of singular focus that can drive you absolutely mad. I recognise this in my writing because the closer I get to handing out my thesis, the closer I get to this doctoral title, the worse my handwriting gets. It's just at the moment. It's terrible. Anyway, this week we will be mostly looking at Adelaide Fringe Festival. It is Adelaide Fringe Festival here in Adelaide, Australia, which is an annual, fringe festivals exist all over the world. It is an annual open access arts festival where anyone can register. It's not curated. Anyone can register an act that they want to do. Comedy, theatre, dance, art, music, you name it, it goes on. Like the Edinburgh Fringe, it was started as a reaction to the more curated, highbrow Adelaide Festival back in the day. And for many years it holds the mantle of alternative arts, new ideas, new concepts. It's meant to be edgy, it's meant to be funky. It was steampunk before steampunk was steampunk. It was hipster before hipster was hipster. Certainly that's what it was. Fringe festivals have become places that are very contentious nowadays for theatre makers around the world. Adelaide Festival, we'll go into all of that later. Adelaide Festival is what is known as what we proudly tout is the second largest fringe festival in the world, next to Edinburgh Fringe in Scotland. However, there's daylight between Adelaide and Edinburgh. I mean, Edinburgh is just. The guide for one venue was as thick as a phone book. That was one venue, massive. Edinburgh obviously has the advantage of Europe being just over the creek, over the ditch, and transport costs and all the rest of it, and UK and density of population, so it's massive. Australia's huge, and there's always statistics coming out telling you how big it is, but we suffer the tyranny of distance, and that we don't have, it's not cheap and easy for international visitors and tourists, although we do pretty well. I mean, who's complaining? Anyway, so this week, because we're talking about theatre and performing arts generally, and I wanted to have a little bit of a look at how does a modern day 2020 Adelaide Fringe Festival, how does it use the web, how does it use the internet, how does it use social media, how does it integrate it, is it useful, is it not useful? Are they leading the way in how we can integrate web stuff? So I'm going to start with my little experience the other day. It was a Wednesday the other day. I went into the city with my daughter and we thought, oh, let's go and look at some fringy stuff during the day. What can I say? Ghost town. Nothing on. When I did this a few years ago, and there was always something on. There was, okay, it was quiet, but there was always something on. Anyway, there was nothing this week, and I thought, okay, well, we'll find something. There's got to be something on, so we'll jump online on the phone and we'll have a look. All right, should be able to connect, find anything. Jumped on. There isn't actually an app now. If anyone can correct me, please do correct me. But I looked, and I'm on Apple. I couldn't find an app in the App Store for the Adelaide Fringe. Right, that's the first thing. I believe they've had them in the past, so I was surprised them not to be able to find one. And like I say, if it is there, I was surprised not to be able to find it easily. So that's the first thing in this world of information everywhere. And when you get when you get an idea for information, you just go, oh, I'll just jump online and look for that. Tried that with the Adelaide Fringe this year, didn't have any luck. All I kept getting was the website, not the app, the website. Okay, let's work with the website. So let's have a look at the website. Now, it may operate differently because I'm on my desktop here, but essentially I was being sent to the website. I keep track of which camera I'm on. I was sent to this website on my phone. So I wasn't, as far as I'm aware, I wasn't operating my phone and the website any differently to the way the website operates here. Right, so okay, are we at the home? Let's start at home. Where's home? Here we go. So now you get an idea. Lots on. There's lots on. Your dates are here. Obviously they've marked out the dates that have been and gone, have they? Oh no, that's where we are. Browse by date. Okay. Browse by date. So I was in the city the other day. It was a Wednesday. The day I was there is gone now. Now, okay, cool. Stuff everywhere. Okay. So the thing was, we were in the city, right? We had a certain amount of time to catch something. We didn't know what we wanted to catch. We were just interested in something. And it was very hard to find anything that was on then around where we were. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just wanted to go to a page that said, what's on near you right now? Tried that. Phone had locked me out of location services, so I couldn't use location services. Even though location services was on, and I went into the settings and I turned it on so that I could use it, the website didn't recognize location settings. Now maybe I had to reset something, I had to turn something off and turn it on again. I don't know. But you know, by this time I'm a few minutes into trying to navigate and I'm starting to get a bit frustrated with it's not working, it's not easy, it's not intuitive. It's not intuitive. If you're going to be integrated on the net, we know it needs to be intuitive. I'm thinking this, I'm doing that, especially with a creative arts festival. I mean, that's just how we work. isn't it? Anyway, so out of my options, I've got genres. Well, I didn't really know. I was kind of interested in whatever popped up. So, okay, it could have been anything really. So I went to children's. 12:30. Okay, well, there's shows on this particular coming Wednesday, but last Wednesday there was nothing. Actually, there's quite a bit on. There wasn't anywhere near this much the other day. And okay, to be fair, I'm with a 13-year-old, so a lot of this stuff is... Don't know that she's going to get into toddler's bop. Theatre. Lots of things you can choose from. Theatre. So, okay, I can look around. Okay, and now I've got times, but they're all over the place. Sorry, I'm pointing to my screen like you can see where I'm pointing, so I will try and use my mousy cursor thing. Okay, so we've got times all over the place. Okay, let's go by venue. Well, I don't know what the venues are. I have no idea. That's why I wanted a map. I wanted to see where it was around me. Okay, so this is a problem. I don't know. Maybe it's easier than I'm. I wanted to see what was on around me. I wanted to see what was happening. Garden was dead. Gluttony was dead.
Hi.
Hello. In fact, Gluttony was so dead they had fencing up so that you couldn't even wander around and have a look. It was a bit disappointing. Okay, so that was my frustrating experience wandering around the Fringe on a random day. Most stuff seems to start afternoon, after school, after work, that sort of stuff. That's still something about Adelaide. That's probably a density of population thing. I mean, in Edinburgh, I could see shows at 9 o'clock in the morning all the way to 1 o'clock in the morning. It was just back-to-back shows all the time. Volume of population, incredibly different. Okay, now I don't have much experience of what it's like to use Fringe web stuff as an artist this year. It's been about 3 years since I produced a show in the Fringe. It was relatively easy to use back then, although a little bit limiting. I don't know what people's experiences of that is at the moment this year. If you got any, let me know. But let's have a look at genres and see who is doing stuff that might lend itself to the kind of research I'm doing here. So let's try interact. We can see from drop-down menu there's film and digital and interactive. Well, let's try both. See what we get. Who out there is integrating web and internet technologies into their performances? We've got VR cinema, more VR cinema. VR is virtual reality. Airy Botter and the Sorcery School Headmaster's Office Escape Room. Oh, so it's an escape room puzzle thing. Film. Cancelled gallows. Cancelled affair. Oh, okay. Interactive gallows tour. Sounds interesting. On the couch with Tammy Anderson. Film and digital. Interactive 1,000 doors. Pardon me. Escape. Great White Killer. Escape room. Drag bunch. Escape game. Street party. Okay. Is this an escape? Has anyone else had a look? No, it's escape room stuff. Let's go back to the VR stuff. The VR stuff seems to be where our work is. Now, let's try a virtual reality headset and experience the fragile beauty of a home planet first in with a fairy tale dark transport a painted replica of a lush Hawaiian forest filled with colourful birds. We search for the last known. Okay, so this is the thing that happens a lot with interactive media and performance so far, right? Predominantly this is the kind of work that we're looking at. So it's an experiential thing. So you go in and you experience the act of doing, in this case putting the headset on, being in a room. You have some kind of, so that's an external physical relationship. You have a consciousness visual relationship in that you are processing the images that you're seeing through here, and that experience of searching. What's missing is, for us as theatre makers, is the interactive part, the relationship part. I've done a few of these. I can't speak for this one. I haven't done this one. But I've done a few of these sorts of things. And that's the overall experience. I don't know whether that's your experience as well, but it's the overall experience for me, is that you get to, it's kind of like touch art. It's like interactive art. There's no conversation. Your input might change a structure or a picture, but it doesn't really, there's no narrative to it. There's rarely a narrative to it. There's like a journey. You might start here and you might end up somewhere else, but that's not really the sort of narrative journey that we deal with in theatre and performance. That idea of character arcs, those storytelling concepts that writers use. It's also, I don't know about you, but it also for me feels a little bit predetermined, like you're on tracks. There's railway tracks. You once you start that ride, you're on it to the end, regardless. It's a bit like those cars in Jurassic Park. I ramble a lot in this vlog. That's what I do. Justified place to ramble. So you end up on this track, like Jurassic Park. The car's on the track and you just keep going. You have that experience and you kind of observing. It's kind of museum in that sense, or touristy. It's missing the component that we have as live theatre makers, which is the relationship between live journey, something dynamic and abstract. Imagination work. That's a term I've been using a bit in the last week or so of writing. Is that as theatre makers we want to stimulate the work of the imagination in the audience. If the audience is working imaginatively to construct the reality or process what they're seeing, then they are part of that creative milieu, that creative dialogue that happens. Yes, don't we all? We all ramble. I've found a quiet space in the house where I can set up my studio and just sit here and talk to a screen. It's kind of like cheap therapy, really. Yeah. Anyway, so a lot of these things are much more, you sort of observe them. There's not that interaction, there's not that journey we were talking about. I went and saw Museum of Design at the University of South Australia the other day on North Terrace. They've got a thing in there at the moment, 7 siblings. It's worth having a look. French. MOD 7 siblings. I'll put it up for you. If you're interested, you can go and have a look. Here we go. Okay. 7 siblings from the future. Now, I was talking to a dude there who was showing us around. He said this is a an interactive installation piece. It talks about it's set in a world maybe 50 years from now, after the climate apocalypse has happened and there's only a few humans left roaming the world, and yet somehow they're still quite wealthy with great services and electricity and all the rest of it. I didn't quite understand that, but anyway, there's these 7 siblings who have inherited this huge property, and then they want to, they argue and debate amongst themselves what's best to do with that property for a personal good, for a global community good. They each represent different things: desire, intelligence, passion, these kind of archetypes. And then you wander around from room to room and you engage with different interactive displays based on each of those characters. And through engaging with those displays, I think you're meant to learn or reflect on some of the decisions we might have to make as people in this post-climate apocalyptic world. I'm not quite sure. It was imported basically from Helsinki, this display, and it was adapted for Australian environment, southern Australia. I imagine in Helsinki it was local to their climate. It's got live actors in it. It's got film recorded actors in it that you can interact with your phone. There's an app. So you download an app, and then as you go from display to display, you can zap the app, and it somehow builds a character archetype of you, who you're most aligned to out of the characters here. Does it work? Started with a big bang, lots of money, lots of lights and projectors, and then by the end of it, it just kind of fizzled out until you were in an empty room with some pieces of paper that you just wrote your feelings on and then put up on a pin-up board. It was kind of a bit of a fart at the end. The guy was saying that they often get a lot of responses that are aligned to a environmentalist position and science and technology position rather than any of the others, but I kind of think, well, that makes sense. If you're open-minded enough generally to go and look at an exhibition about something like this, you're probably going to be that way inclined anyway. I don't know whether that really tells us about the people seeing it. We don't get much of a sense of the audience. That's the thing. I left with this thing of going, okay, I experienced something, but I didn't change anything. I wasn't involved in anything. Nothing I did had any effect on anything. I don't really think I understand what they're trying to talk about. Some of the questions they ask you are so loaded. I mean, you couldn't justifiably answer that question without too many complications. So that's another example of a kind of integrated performance style digital experience that's going on here in Adelaide at the moment. There's the Adelaide Festival as well. I've been going for 48 minutes, so I'll be wrapping it up very soon. I know it's Friday morning. We all want to get to the coffee shop. I was going to people print. Okay, so this is their website. Again, websites and social media. This is something that I've observed generally for theatre makers is a vehicle or a conduit for advertising and marketing. Hasn't yet become integrated into the storytelling narrative itself. It's being used as a function in the case of the Fringe for access to tickets and information. Same thing here with the Adelaide Festival, although this is a little bit more, whiz-bang with pop-up bits and slidey bits and video embedded and all of that sort of stuff. But still, essentially, explore the program, filter program. Is there anyone in here doing physical theatre, visual arts, family dance, physical theatre, writers with contemporary virtual reality, and there's a category for that. Okay, I've done that. One event in virtual reality. Kate Middle Heidke. So really, when you look at, I mean, we've got two of the world's biggest festivals in Adelaide at the moment, and we've got the Museum of Design, with their installation. So that's computer generated stuff. Okay, so they're just showing you how they did that. There's still an absence, and there's an absence because no one's thinking of doing it yet. Hands up, I am trying to. Of integrated web to life. That is the software, the hardware, the way we communicate, the stories we tell, the identities that we have. There is no integration of that into the storytelling narrative at the moment. Even this has more integration than that at the moment. I'm streaming live, you can talk back to me. We're using the platform as the stage or the space or the forum. Yeah. I don't need to be in a theatre. You don't need to be at a community hall with me having a discussion about stuff. We can be doing it here, and we can be creating something here. I'm interested in performing arts and live theatre that integrates this medium into the live theatre experience. It requires a different way of thinking about process. It requires a different methodology. But all of these methodologies and processes are based in conventional orthodox theatre making. It's just adapted and reworked. Concept around all of that, if we're ever going to figure this out, just quickly before I go, is imagine trying to create live performance without a fourth wall. Like the fourth wall isn't actually there. And that's been hard for me to get my head around, because you've got to imagine an environment without a fundamental piece of the puzzle. And that fundamental piece of the puzzle is the fourth wall, and it doesn't actually exist anywhere. It's not a physical thing, it's an abstract idea. So how do you create performance without a fundamental abstract idea as the premise? That was as much for me as it was for you. I need to get these things out. Not theatre, but have you seen the work of Grendel Games, particularly their water bottle game, water battle game, Real World Impact of Choices? Is that in the Fringe? Grendel Games. Grendel Games. Grendel Games. Grendel Games. I'm guessing that's Fringe. Alicia, let's go back to the Fringe. Clean all filters. Search. No. No, it's not there. Festival, Grendel Games. International Video Games Company. Aha! Okay. Yeah, that's the thing I find. Gaming companies, and in some cases, marketing and advertising companies are probably at the forefront of trying to develop or working within these ideas. Gaming has always led the way in computer and software design for the last 30 or 40 years. So it's no surprise that it's still doing that. Go away. Yeah, go away. How do you challenge children to make repetitive arithmetic exercises? By taking along an adventurous game where they repeat the exercises unnoticed. Travel into space. Yeah, I've allowed cookies. Go away. I get the feeling that this website is doing it for me. It's just repeating. It's a math game, which is one of the famous This is on the dashboard. Dedicated dashboard. So it's a reward system. Yep, that's the thing with gaming, is that it's got the reward system. So task for reward system, which is like an economy of experience. This sounds really wanky, I know. And, you know, it kind of is wanky, but it's kind of a thing too. That gaming works because it has the reward system. So you input activity into it, you change the environment around it, and you get rewarded for that, whether it's coins or it's dollars or it's achieved the next level or something like that. Twitch is actually, if you know Twitch, the live streaming channel for gamers. I'll take you there quickly if you've not seen it before. So Twitch is a live streaming platform, kind of like YouTube, but it's not. But it's all live, and this is specifically designed by gamers. So you can see here, we've got this dude. This dude here is playing a game here. You can see all his stats and statistics and all the rest of it. It looks like here he's
driving a red gem, not mucking the AJ. Just an ace will do.
Yeah, he's talking. Oh, he's playing poker.
He has a set. Awkward.
So he's playing poker, and he's got this list of people down here as well. So he's talking to those. I'm pointing to the screen again, like you can see. He's talking to these people down here who are watching him in a chat, who are also watching him and talking to him in a chat room. He's playing the game here. These are probably other real life players like him in a room somewhere playing against him. So a lot of the work, a lot of the academic work at the moment that's investigating performance and play is, I'll just mute him, is located in this space of gaming. So I'm not surprised at all to hear about Grendel Games as another version of that. And I think this is where the potential for theatre makers and theatre makers and performers in this new world of stuff is that we can bring to the party, this evolving party, the capacity. Yes, the online video game space is really interesting, really opportunity for live interaction and where theatre could fit in it. Absolutely, because they are already engaged in that community-driven social platform where they interact with each other, whether they're gaming together, in consoles or... I mean, one of the first events I came across when I started research was it was like the World of Warcraft Olympics. So they had the best 25 teams or something in World of Warcraft around the world. And there's something like 20 million people who play that game online. We've got the best 25 teams. There's something like 5 or 6 people in each team. So, really, out of a lot of people that play, there's only a handful of people in the world who got chosen. They put them up in this stadium where each team sets up their banks of computers next to one another. And then they all play each other in this online gaming thing, and they had more people watching online than the Olympics got in ratings, and it's an event you've probably never heard of, and that is an incredibly powerful social performing act. I mean, that's huge, that's massive. This environment has all the tools that we would normally use as theatre makers. It's got microphone, we work with sound, it's got vision and cameras, we work with that, we work with narrative and language, we work with performance and presentation of characters and actors. It's got all the elements. You know what's missing? Or what's missing is the fourth wall. That's the thing that's missing, and that's what I found most theatre makers struggle with, which is why we invariably end up using web-based interaction as a trick or a gimmick or a device for measuring or a conduit for delivering, but it's not integrated into the actual story itself. And that's because to be involved, you have to be you have to. I'm contributing. I'm doing something into it. Alicia, you're online. You're putting something into it. What you say online here on that screen directly impacts the experience I'm having here as a character. There's that kind of relationship. If we were in a theatre, you would be sitting in the stalls and you would be quiet. You wouldn't be allowed to listen. I'm the actor. I'm up on stage. I'm allowed to talk. So this abstract wall between us is gone, and it democratizes the experience of theatre. It disrupts theatre by democratizing it, by taking away, by removing authority and artistic authority and artistic power and permissions to speak based on who has creative control, and it gives it back to the audience. The audience have control over that, and that is so how do you control the narrative of a story, as we are all familiar with telling character arcs, beginning, middle, end, all of those things? How do you do that in a space where the audience don't just sit and watch, but the audience contribute to that journey, and you don't have control over where they take it, so you have to allow that to impact you in order to have an authentic experience, an experience with, or relationship with your audience. But you have to work with it in order to maintain the narrative of your character. That's the challenge of live participatory work in person. Yeah, yes, definitely. What we've discovered is that it's kind of a hybrid of long form improvisation, where we do a lot of character, and this is where conventional theatre making still has a part to play, because we do a lot of work on character development, a lot of Mike Lee type stuff, a lot of character-based improvisation, the stuff that Rob Marchand does, a lot of that sort of stuff, and we do a lot of work on that character stuff. We do a lot of work on developing scripts that have inbuilt the capacity for the audience to shape the story and be shaped by the story, and to do it in such a way that they actually still have a sense of suspension of disbelief, that they can get swept up into a story even though they are part of making it. The thing with participatory theatre, whether it's in real life or online though, is always, will the audience respond? If you ask the audience a question and they don't give you anything, what do you do? How do you deal with that? Always a fun question. Always a fun experience when you're an actor. Yeah, kind of a long form impro. It is kind of a long form impro. But rather than impro having kind of leaving it up to the actors to kind of find a conclusion of some kind, and go, end scene, we'll finish there. It's long form impro, but with a written narrative that runs through it. So moments of drama, moments of tension. How do you create a moment of drama? This is a good question. Drama with when one of the other characters is the audience who's watching you. If you have a moment of tension and drama with that character online, they might actually switch off and go away. How do you keep them there? What happens if they arc up and get angry at you? Where do your character go then? What if they don't do anything? Does that mean you've beaten them? It adds a different element. Those questions are kind of the exciting electric bits of the theatrical performance, is what I'm getting at. That's the high wire. What's the actor going to do? Where are they going to go? What's going to happen? What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to them? That's where the high wire act becomes the danger of theatre, that dramatic danger that you need to have starts to come into it. Yeah, really cool. One of the plays I'm working on at the moment, that's the other thing, there's lots of stories that only exist online. There's lots of lives and narratives and experiences that only exist in an online life. stories of catfishing, the ever-growing invisible industry of content, commercial content management. All of these sorts of stories are stories that only exist because of this interface, that we have, these lives and businesses that we live online. So really, I think the only place to tell those stories is online. If you try and take the story of a catfish experience and then put it on a stage in the bakehouse, it really isn't going to work, because the bakehouse is the lived experience of sitting in their theatre and being in a room with living, breathing human beings is already nothing like the experience of catfishing or being catfished and falling into that trap. That manipulative trap that only exists online. So there are stories and lives that are happening online that can only be told online. I think that's the other thing too. I'm not trying to take canon work of Shakespeare or Beckett or Miller or any of these people and go, right, I'm going to tell that story online, because the same thing, it wouldn't work. Those plays were written for those environments and those stages and those qualities and those methods and techniques. It was written for that. It was written for the fourth wall. These stories, they're not going to translate over here. Likewise, these stories that have no fourth wall aren't going to translate into a space that does. That is why I'm coming to the idea that this is more and more a new genre. It's still in its early stages, but it is distinct. It has its roots and its heritage in TV and film and theatre and performance, but it is distinct by virtue of this fourth dimension that we live on here. What do you reckon, Alicia? Time for a coffee? Feels like it's coffee time. Hey man, thanks for coming. Thanks for joining. I'm going to show you a page. So I've got a Twitch page. You can check me out on Twitch as well. I'm streaming here on Twitch at the same time I'm streaming on YouTube. I also have this page here. I'm trying a new business model as well, which I think really exists in this space. So I've got a Patreon page. I know you've got a Patreon page too, Alicia. We should share pages. We should swap pages. That'll be, yeah. So yes, I'm on here, and where I'm posting a whole heap of stuff. I've got a Vimeo page as well, where I'll put together a little edited version of this and chuck it up on there. Thanks for joining me. That was awesome. Really good to chat. Can't wait to do it. Enjoy your fringe. Have fun. I'm going to go grab a coffee, and I will see you online in and around the place. And we're back here doing this again in 2 weeks. Okay. Bye-bye. It's not like hanging up the phone, is it? Oh.
I